This is the Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
Anyone for jelly, baby?
I'm the Doctor. I'm 904 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castobrus.
Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 99.
99 with a flinch.
Hope you guys have had a cracking week, that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related in your lives. And yeah, once again, thank you for joining us. We're nearly at 100.
Yes. Episode 99, one away.
Will episode 100 be the last ever episode? We're going to go out on 100 and that's it.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Of course not. Of course. 101.
That's it. And then we'll go out.
And then we'll go out. We jest, of course. In all seriousness. Hope you guys have a good week. We've got some cool news. Can I have you? We've really struggled to sort of peruse the landscape of Doctor Who news this week. It's been quite light, but we've got a couple of interesting little bits. And then we're going to crack on with our review of Blink. Don't turn away. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Don't blink.
I like that, yeah. Very cool.
Very cool. How have you been, buddy? What have you been up to? Anything?
Yes, I've been good. Yeah, not too bad. I've watched our review episode, Blink, obviously.
Of course.
And I'm really glad I gave that another watch, actually. I'll come on to why in the review, but it's one of those episodes I thought I knew, and I definitely gained more from giving it a watch. So, yeah, looking forward to chatting through that with you later. Bizarrely, I've already started watching our review episode for next week as well, so I managed to cram in quite a bit of Who TV this week. The reason for that will become clear when we announce at the end what episode we're doing. And apart from that, what else have I been doing? Well, I'm very excited about some news that got announced for London Film and Comic Con. Very, very excited.
Yes.
Paul McGann has just been added to the list. What are we, 2 weeks away from it?
Yep.
And he suddenly got added, and they're going to be having a replica of the Eighth Doctor's console that you can have a picture of McGann at. And I'll tell you what, Gary, for me, it's like Christmas has come early, because I couldn't have asked for anything better. I would have wanted to get a proper picture with McGann for forever, because I've got a really good picture with him where I met him on the street and it was really nice. It's a great picture. But yeah, and I'll be able to get my Regen box signed, Regeneration set. But to get a picture with him on the console is I'm just absolutely buzzing. So when I got that news, I literally couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. And I can't believe it. So I really, really can't wait for London Film Comic Con. I was excited before, but now I'm literally like hyped.
I can completely concur. It is like Christmas has come early.
It's just brilliant.
We've been talking about McGann, haven't we, for so long about he hasn't really got out to many UK conventions it's quite a while now. It's been a couple of years since he's done the circuit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And it'll be good, because the last time that I saw him was at the Milton Keynes Collectomania, run by the same people.
Same, actually, yeah.
And it was just that random thing where he was, I can't remember exactly what it is now. I think he was walking past and I was doing something on my phone, and the missus was like, "Isn't that the Eighth Doctor?" I just looked up quickly now, turned around, it is. Sort of, oh, wow, huge fan. So I didn't really have time to, get a picture or anything signed. So this will be the perfect, because I'm not sure when he's going to be back after this, because it's been, a long time. This might be his only one for another few years. So it's awesome. And the photo shoot as well with the Eighth Doctor, it's such a good console as well. It's awesome.
I know, it's a beautiful console, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to go, because there's quite a few different photo shoots, isn't there? There's McGann and the console, there's McGann and Sylvester in the console. They've even put like Bonnie and Connie and Colin, and Sylvester with the console, and you're sort of thinking, yeah, I don't know, I'm not too bold about that because they weren't in it, but I think a picture with McGann and Sylvester at the console would be amazing.
I think that's the one to get. It has to be, doesn't it? Sylv and McGann, because there is something cool about just McGann with the console having the photo there, but having Sylve in there.
Well, when are you going to be in a room with the console and Sylve and McGann together? I mean, is that going to happen again? I mean, I know they've had it in the past, but it's a long time ago. So it's
precisely the point.
Done.
Yeah, exactly the point. I mean, there's probably a high chance that it will be McGann and the console at some point over the next, God knows how many years. That's quite a high probability. But like you say, McGann and Sylve with that console, that's quite a low probability, isn't it?
I think so.
So there's got to be that one for me.
Yeah, I think in the same. I'm just like, I want all of them. Actually, I'm just like, just too much choice. But I'm just so excited about it. And for some bizarre reason, I mean, I met Paul at the Collectomania in Milton Keynes way back when. I mean, that must be that is some years ago now. So it's probably the same when you were at, bizarrely. And and I don't know why, but I got him to sign a With Nail and I picture. So I haven't got a Doctor Who picture signed by him, and it's something that's always bugged me. Because the thing is, With Nail and I is one of my favourite films, so that's why I got the picture. But I've always regretted not getting a Doctor Who thing signed by him. So I'm really looking forward to getting that done this time, and a photo.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to be amazing. I just can't wait.
It's going to be a good one, I feel, this one, because I'm probably going to get a photo off Colin as well.
Oh,
so
I thought you got one with Colin.
Yeah, but I don't want it to feel left out.
Okay.
Because I imagine that a lot of Who fans are going to gravitate towards McGann because of the console and the photo shoot and so on. So, and also if you look down the costs of the price to get an autograph or a photo, Colin, he's the lowest on the pile.
Yeah.
So I don't want him to feel left out and him sitting there thinking, oh, this is brilliant. Those two are off making the money, getting all the photos, so we've got to throw a bit of money towards Colin.
I did notice Sylvester's more money. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, I think Colin's 15 quid.
I think
Sylvester's
20 or 25, I think. I can't remember now. It's a bit more. It's because he's been in The Hobbit, isn't it?
That's it. It's that bloody...
Got that extra fiver on there.
Yeah, what was it? Radagast the Brown from The Hobbit. I think that was his name.
Yeah.
But that sort of propelled his status a little bit.
That's it.
But yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think there's I think it's going to be a busy one as well, though, because there's so many people there, and they really need to get a bigger venue. I mean, I know it's difficult because I think one of the other conventions, I think it's the MCM Expo. I think they've got the rights to the Excel Centre, which would be perfect. So they're stuck in like the Olympia 2 or the Olympia, is it? Or
one I always get mixed up
one
with
of those smaller ones, and it gets really, especially when they've got big stars now and they sell them out, it gets really hot and cramped and so really hoping they can find another larger venue somewhere in London. I don't know where they would go, but
the Excel would be good actually.
It'd be perfect, yeah. But I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere that the MCM Expo guys have got the rights to hold like a comic convention exclusively at the Excel. So
I see.
I think that's the case anyway.
Is that where you're going to your Star Wars this weekend? Is that Excel?
That's at the Excel, yeah.
Oh, right, excellent.
So that's can't wait for that.
I was going to say, you're a big. Well, we're both big Star Wars fans, aren't we? But yeah, that's going to be amazing. Who's actually going to be there? Who are you going to meet? Because Mark Hamill's about £2,000, isn't he? If you want to meet him,
that is unbelievable. Mark Hamill.
How much is he? Like 150 or something?
145 quid for a photo with Mark Hamill. So I won't be doing that.
No.
To be honest with you, I'm more just looking forward to like going round and seeing all the smaller panels.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of artists. I don't want to go. It's not Star Wars, but there's a couple of artists about Star Wars that I've spoken to over the years, and I've got some of their work, so I want to get some of those signed and just mingling and having a look around, really. But the London Film and Comic Con, I think it's going to be a similar vibe because they've got so many good big franchises there, like people from big movies and big TV shows. I think it's going to be a similar vibe where lots of people trying to get...
You were saying before we kicked off as well, you've got to be careful not to take in a blaster. You're not allowed blasters. You're not allowed lightsaber. No, you are allowed a lightsaber, aren't you? But it must have a battery or something. It's all these weird, well, not weird, but there's a lot of safety constrictions with that one. You were telling me, weren't you? Yes,
and I'm wondering if they're going to imply any of these rules at conventions, elsewhere, maybe at the London Film and Comic Con one. But yeah, at Celebration this weekend, you're not allowed, there's like certain cosplay weapons you're not allowed to take with you, and lightsabers have to be inspected and stuff, and it's all it's all very it's very, it brings me, it does. It is quite a shame, the world we live in today, that these things have to be done, because I remember, you probably remember yourself, if you go back maybe 5 or 6 years at some older conventions like Collectomania and stuff like that, there were people selling ninja stars, samurai swords, all sorts there. And there's like kids like 15, 16 who have bought like 5 huge full-size replica samurai swords just walking around the convention hall.
Yeah.
You just can't do that these days. I mean, it's a bit of a shame where we live. I'm not saying, that I want to go out and buy a ninja sword, but, when you've got a little kid who's going to a convention cosplaying as a character from their favourite film, whatever, and they can't take, even if it's a plastic replica of a weapon or something, that sucks quite a lot.
That is the world we live in. It's a shame, isn't it? It just gets worse and worse, actually. I mean, there'll probably come a time when we'll have our sonic screwdrivers confiscated. Can you imagine, like, everyone handing in different variations of the Sonic as they go into the XL? Come on, let's have it. Let's have that confession dial. That's not going in.
Well, I was just about to say, I mean, thank God that the Doctor's weapon of choice is a Sonic device, because you can't really do much damage with a replica Sonic device. But like you say, world's getting crazier, so that could happen at one point. Hand over your Sonics, come on.
Yeah, I can see it happening. That's surprising. Joking aside, I can actually see it happening, but it would be a sad day, wouldn't it? Yeah,
it would be a sad day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of in convention mode, aren't we? At the moment, we're looking forward to, because you went to a Phantom event a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I did. Yeah, which was really good.
Which was great. We've got London Film and Comic Con coming up. There's another Phantom event shortly after that.
End of August.
End of August. And there's another one as well. There's one that I saw, I think it was by 10th Planet, free entry. Tom Baker's there.
Oh, the Barking.
Over in Barking, yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be a good one.
That's quite not bad for you to get to, is it, that one? That's quite close. Well, not close to you, but it's...
It's all right. It's a normal hop on the train, a couple of tubes.
It's not too out of it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all go. Green light conventions.
Well, it is. It's so exciting.
Which is good.
Yeah. So have you been up to much else this week? Have you managed to get any Who at home? Who at home?
Yeah, well, obviously, as watching the review episode. And I've got a funny feeling that, again, your thoughts and my thoughts we're going to have a bit of a snap situation going on there, because I too, when I rewatched our review episode, Blink, I thought that I remembered so much from that episode and, thought I knew it very well. But when I watched it, I was like, whoa. There was quite a few things in there. I was like, I do not remember this at all. In fact, I even forgot completely about a certain character in the episode, which is bizarre. But yeah, so I went on a bit of a Tennant role after that as well. So I carried on, watched Utopia after that.
Oh, Utopia.
Yeah. Sound of Drums, and then Last of the Time Lord. So I had a bit of a Series 3 sort of binge after that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. We've also had some messages from our competition winners recently. Bob Clark over in the US. He received his book from our giveaway, Wallowing in Our Own Welsh Merts.
Yes.
Which is a cool book. So he got that. He's very happy. And George Garrity got his target book, Genesis of the Daleks. So some happy listeners.
Yeah, and thanks, guys, for sending in pictures and tweets and stuff and letting us know that you've got them, because it's always nice to know that it's been safely received, because obviously, like, they get sent out and, we just assume that they arrive safely. So, yeah, it's great to see that you've got them.
Yeah. Good
times. I hope you enjoy them. Yeah. Good stuff.
Not much else, buddy?
Nope.
Not much else at all.
Not much else going on. I haven't seen any filming pics, have we? We got, like, after that little burst of them all outside that building running and hugging each other and all that, and Matt Lucas on set, we haven't seen much else this week, have we? I was thinking we might have seen some more, but nothing.
Been a bit dry, the landscape.
They're obviously inside, aren't
they? Corridors.
Yeah, corridors, yeah.
Plenty of corridors that we've seen for the past 5 years, just redecorated and redone. And
that's it, repainted.
Which is no bad thing if it's done right.
Yeah, I don't want to see that TARDIS corridor again, though, because they've redressed that one enough, and I don't want to see Trap Street again either.
Okay, yep.
Somebody pointed out that popped up in, Russell T Davies did A Midsummer Night's Dream over a couple of months back.
Yep.
Apparently, it popped up in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Someone told me, and I was like, I think it did actually. Yeah.
No,
So yeah, they're getting the most out of that Trap Street set. That's for sure.
You've got to be financially smart when you're running a TV production. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
So I hear. Mind you, the amount that we spend on merch, we should be able to build a couple of new corridors.
Yeah, you'd have
This
thought so,
series.
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Anyways, shall we land this puppy?
Let's do
some
it.
news? First up, we have a crew. I was going to say crew member. He's not really. Doesn't really sound right. His title seems more important than that. We have an announcement for Series 11. So as well as the Chibbers coming on as the overseer of everything, Matt Strevens. I'm going to say I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Is it Matt Strevens or Matt Strevens?
Would
say
have gone with
Strevens.
Streven. Oh, going Strevens, I would have said.
Strevens.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have two E's, would it? It would still be
Strevens.
Strevey. Matt Slatheens.
Yeah.
Right, so anyway, Matt Strevens has been confirmed as the executive producer for Series 11, which is the new kickoff point for new Doctor Who. After the Moff has been kicked out the door
That's it.
with his box, with all the stuff off his desk. Which is good news, because if you look at some of the things that he's done over the years, he's not one of the I wouldn't say that he's one of like a standout producer that you would associate with a very high profile show like Who, but he has done some cool little things over the years, going back to things like, well, he has done something with Who in the past. We'll get to that. But he has done things like Misfits, Silk, which is cool drama. And then he's done like the usual stuff that people at the BBC sort of cut their teeth on, which is things like EastEnders, The Bill. And I think he's done something on Casualties, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Like the, you know, run-of-the-mill soapy drama stuff. But he was the executive producer on An Adventure in Space and Time.
No, which was fantastic, wasn't it?
Which was one of the best things to come out of the whole 50th anniversary.
It was, yeah.
Period.
It was absolutely brilliant, yeah.
Yes, and the other good thing as well is that he is a lifelong Doctor Who fan.
Oh, is he? Oh, right, okay, I didn't realise that.
Which always helps. I think he said that he grew up, his earliest memories of Who was the Tom Baker era. And he says that his Doctor is actually Peter Davison. He says he loves Peter Davison's Doctor so much.
Oh, right, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I've got a little bit more excited about the news now because, yeah, when this broke yesterday, the first thing I did was misread it. I thought it said Matt Smith because I just skimmed through I was like, Matt Smith, what? Executive producer. Then I realised it was someone I'd never heard of, Matt Stevens. Are we Strevens? So we saying it's Matt Strevens?
Strevens, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and then I saw he'd worked on The Bill, and I was like, oh my God, this sounds awful. But then I carried on reading, and as soon as I saw Adventure in Space and Time, I was like, that's better. That's more like it. So, this is quite good, actually. This is quite promising, actually. Misfits, I've never really watched, but I think it was quite a slick, well received program, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite promising news, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So Matt
Strevens, yes.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Talking of Matt Smith, in other news, there is a rumour been flying around thanks to the brilliant, I say,
the brilliant.
Then maybe I say brilliant, I probably mean something else. The Mirror, basically, have broken a news story, which reading between the lines, Gary, I don't know about you, I think is nonsense. But basically, they've cobbled together a load of quotes, and they are reporting that Matt Smith could be returning as the Doctor. And the way the article goes is that when Peter Capaldi leaves, and they're saying at the end of Series 10 that he could regenerate into Matt Smith's Doctor, which I just cannot see happening in a million years. I don't know about you. I just cannot see that happening. The only things that do support this is that Matt seems terribly keen to come back as the Doctor. He said a couple of times, I'd love to come back, and when are they going to ask me, sort of thing. But that could be Matt just being polite. The other thing is, if there was any truth at all to this rumor, I would imagine it would more be that Matt's going to pop up in Moffat's last series as like a little cameo, because the Moff, I can just imagine the Moff can't resist getting him back in for his send-off series, if you see what I mean. Even if it's just a little cameo, I can just see him doing that, a bit like he did in Deep Breath, where he got Matt on the phone at the end. Yeah. I can just imagine him doing that. So, but I cannot see Peter Capaldi regenerating back into Matt Smith's Doctor. Can you?
Of course not.
No. You worried for a minute there.
No. Yeah. Long-time listeners, you will know that we don't go in for rumours and all that tosh. But the reason why I think we want to speak about this one is because it's so ludicrous. And so
it's been put out there a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's so funny. I mean, there's absolutely no way that. Well, there's two things, that are very questionable in this rumor. The first one is that everybody is assuming that Capaldi's off after next year, at the end of next year, at Series 10. Now, that might be the case. That could very well be the plan, where, just like a lot of the other actors, that have played the Doctor, they are very much Doctor Who fans. They love it. It's probably one of their dream roles, dream job if you're a lifelong Who fan. And he probably doesn't want to feel like that pressure that he has to go and all that stuff. But, that's the first thing. Everyone, a lot of people are saying that he's off at the end of Series 10. And like I said, that might very well be the case, but that's not confirmed yet. He might be like, no, sod ya. I'm sticking around. I want to do another one. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that there's no way that if he was to go and we get a new Doctor, that they would just bring back a previous incarnation to play the Doctor again. It would have to be a seriously weird and completely bonkers out there storyline to warrant having, as someone who's already played the Doctor come back, especially as a regeneration as well. That'd be, that would just be completely... No. Well, also, it wouldn't bring
the excitement either, because it would be almost feel like a step back, wouldn't it? Because, I absolutely love Matt's Doctor. Didn't like all of his stories, but I loved him as the Doctor. And if he was to sort of return, it's not as exciting. Like, I think when they do announce a new Doctor, whenever that time comes, that does automatically bring in a bit of a buzz, and no doubt people tune in that perhaps wouldn't, because they want to see what this new Doctor's like, so it brings with it new viewers and a freshness to the show. So I doubt they would cast somebody that's already been the Doctor, because people would just be like, oh, he's back, not interested, seen him before. Do you know what I mean? It's like I couldn't see it happening from any point of view, really.
Yeah, it's a real strange one. And they've used some very loosely used quotes from Matt Smith and the Moff from quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Sort of cobbled together, an article to give it some justification. But I would say that, yes, it's entirely possible and quite probable that Matt Smith will show his face in some way for the Moff's final few episodes, or the final one, whatever, because, it's becoming quite a thing to do that with Russell T Davies, bringing everyone back, even if they had tiny little cameos for the Doctor to go and say, so that's kind of the thing. But for him to come back as the Doctor, I think is hugely out there as a real outside. I wouldn't put any money on it, put it that way.
No. Do you know what I think's happened? I think very much like me and you, the Mirror have been trying to cobble together a bit of news, Doctor Who news, and a bit like me and you when we do before the podcast. There's not much out there. What can we do? What can we get? What can we use? And I think they've cobbled this together just to try and put some Doctor Who news out there, because they probably haven't got anything else. But I am wondering if do you think the Moff will be able to resist bringing back River before he goes? River's story is so overdone, but will he be able to get through his last series without without bringing her back, even if it's for a little cameo?
I want to say yes, he can.
He can't.
But there's a small part of me that thinks he just can't let things
He
go
can't
sometimes.
let it go.
We're probably going to see Clara as well. Let's be honest.
I bet we are. Bet we are. Yeah.
Yep. So I wouldn't put it past him to bring River back, Clara back. The whole freaking lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all sorry. Amy and Rory. The little girl who played Amy as a kid, but the one that doesn't look anything like her, that was in the Day of the Doctor. That girl running around the concert. It's like, well, who's that? Amelia Pond.
Amelia,
She'll be back, 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be okay. I mean, I can't really criticise too much because, like I said, Russell T Davies did that and brought everyone back, and that was. A lot of people criticise it, but that had me blubbering like a baby, and I loved it. I love all that stuff. So it could be good, but for some reason I've just got, the way that the Moff does things, it could be, a bit of a washout.
I've got a serious question for you, actually. You were saying about Capaldi bowing out at the end of Series 10. I think a lot of people assume or think he will, but my question is, a lot of people feel that the BBC would love to see him go. I think they think because, the viewing figures and, sales and merchandise has sort of dropped off, they would like to see a new Doctor come in and revamp the series. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's how the BBC feel, or do you think they're quite happy to have him, if he was to stay on when Chibbers takes over for another series, do you think the BBC would be happy with that, or do you think they want him gone? Because that's a lot of people seem to think that.
I think it depends on who you talk to at the BBC. I think if you talk to anybody who's based in BBC Wales, like the production side of things, I would probably say that they love Capaldi.
Yeah.
And none of that stuff. If you speak to more of the BBC bigwigs, in their eyes and in their mind, it's just pound signs.
Yeah.
That's my view on it. So I honestly don't think they give a beep, who the Doctor is at the time. As long as the show's bringing in the money, then they don't really care. That's my view on it. But if you speak to people that are lower down the chain, who are like making the show, like BBC Kimura, I think those guys, they probably get quite attached to the actor playing the Doctor because they, So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely agree with you there. I think you're totally right. Yeah, I was going to say there is part of me that feels that there is a certain quarter of the BBC that would perhaps like to see him go. Not because they've got anything against Capaldi, but I think they feel that it needs a bit of a revamp. But I think they're confusing a brilliant actor with perhaps some poor writing, because I don't think the problems with the show that it's clearly got at the moment lie with Capaldi, but I think he sort of bears the brunt of it because he's at the front of the show, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
So people sort of assume if Capaldi goes, everything will be great again, but it's not Capaldi that's the issue. So I think there's a bit of that as well. I hope he stays on. I'd love to see him under a new writer for at least a series. I think would be great, but my gut feeling is he'll go. I think
that's the consensus, isn't it? That after the Moff goes, he'll go.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, but like David, he left with Russell, didn't he?
Yeah, but I want him to be a bit militant. I want him to be like, no, because I'm assuming that he has some kind of contract to do a certain amount of shows or a series or whatever, and as long as the people renew it, then why not just do it?
I suppose it depends if he's happy with the scripts as well, because he's an actor at the end of the day, and if he's getting scripts through, I mean, as much as he loves Doctor Who, if you put yourself in his place, like say me and you were the Doctor, we love the show, whatever, but if we're getting scripts through that we'd think poor or perhaps not as good as we would hope, or because he's a Doctor Who fan as well, isn't he? So he probably sits there just like we would, thinking, I could write a better script than this. You know what I mean? I could do this. So that he can't help but think that if he's not happy with how things are, he might decide to leave because of that, not because he thinks it's his time to move on. He just might think that I've done my run. I think I'll get out now and do something else.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Trying to guess people's thoughts and what's going to happen, but unfortunately I think he will go, but I'd like him to stay on.
Yeah,
would be good.
I echo that. Yeah,
right. I think I hear some Daleks tapping on the door.
I definitely heard something out there. Let's see what it is.
Merch corner, merch corner, merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted. It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
The Daemons,
Brilliant story.
or the Demons, whichever way you want to say it. The Daemons, the Demons. I think it's
Daemons.
Is it the Daemons?
It's the Demons, yeah. Forever get annoyed when I watch my location video because I call it the Demons, but it is the Demons. Yeah,
That's a cracking story from Pertwee.
brilliant. Yeah,
Pertwee's era, and there's been these sort of spin-off fan-made DVDs that pop up now and then. And if you guys remember, I think it was either earlier this year or last year, there was a DVD that came out called Downtime.
yeah.
Was it this year? Earlier this year or last year?
I was thinking this year. It wasn't that long ago, anyway. Yeah,
No. And so they've made a direct sequel to that. And you'll probably know this more than I do because I didn't get it. But if I remember correctly, Downtime was a spin-off story that was set around the same time as the Daemons, and it had the Brig.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I don't think it's set around the same time, but it's got the Brig. The Brig's in it. You got not Lethbridge Stewart, Kate Stewart.
That's right.
In it as well, but a different actress, obviously. You also had some of the sort of classic TV stars in it. So you had Elizabeth Sladen, and who's the other one? So I'm forgetting. You had a couple of sort of the classic TV stars in it as well. So it'll come to me while we're speaking. I can't think of a name at the minute.
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed Downtime, actually. I have to be honest, because I'd never seen it. So I just bought it. I think it was quite cheap, $9.99. I thought, I'll just give it a watch, see what it's like. I mean, it's very sort of basic in production, but it's sort of in the middle between fan-made and professional, if you know what I mean. So it's
an amateur.
It's an amateur,
It's an
but
amateur movie, yeah.
Yeah, but it still works quite well. I actually really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah. So the same people have made a direct sequel to Downtime, and it's also a sequel to The Daemons.
Yeah.
It's a direct, sort of carry-on story directly from The Daemons. And the description is, so it's a direct sequel. In the film, Cavendish, which character's Cavendish? He's broken by his experiences in Downtime and hides away in a cottage where he becomes absorbed by the occult. Kate Lethbridge Stewart of UNIT travel to see him after an appeal for help, and together they battle the resurgent evil Daemons from the story of the same name. So it's bringing back, the monster villain aspect from the Pertwee story, but it's made in that sort of, it's in that world of Doctor Who. It's all the same characters and stuff. So I'm not sure. It might be cool to pick up both of them together, because I wouldn't want to watch this one without watching Downtime first.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I would recommend Downtime. I really, as I said, if you sort of take it for what it is, I actually really quite enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't say there's nothing amazing about it, but it's just, it's quite an interesting little watch. Funny enough, do you know, I had this in my basket to order the start of this week. And just because of thinking about needing to save money for the Comic-Con and stuff, I actually took it out. So I nearly ordered this week, so I'm really intrigued by it. If any of our listeners have actually seen it, I'd be really interested to know whether they think it's worth getting or not, because I no doubt will pick it up at some point. But from what I've heard or seen on the sort of comments, I hear that this is not as good as Downtime. I hear that most people prefer Downtime, maybe because it's got, Nick Courtney, Elizabeth Sladen and all that. And Deborah Watling was the person I was trying to think of. And also it features the Yeti. So it's got quite a lot of good ingredients in Downtime. Whereas I think in this one, I don't think there's any sort of classic Doctor Who cast, is there? I think they've got the same lady to play Kate Stewart, who is quite good, actually.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
But yeah, I definitely will pick this up at some point. But as I said, I kind of regret putting it back because I do want to see it. But it's just at the minute with money going into other things, I'm not picking it up. But if anyone out there has seen it, let us know if it's worth getting, because I'd be interested. Yeah,
I'm interested as well. I mean, I don't know how much this will be. How much is it? $9.99, is it?
It's $9.99 again. It's a good price. It is. I'm just intrigued by it. I quite like these little fan-made things. They got a good charm to them, if you know what I mean. They're quite interesting.
Yeah, and this is out on the 18th of July, so it's only a few days away.
Yeah, that's right.
So yes, give us your thoughts and reviews on this. If you've seen Downtime as well, I'd be interested to see what your feelings are on this as a sequel as well, because it's very rare do you get a fan-made, an unofficial fan film that goes on to get a sequel. It's quite rare, so we'd be interested to find out.
Yeah.
So that's going to do for news and merch. We're going to crack on with our review of one that we've been asked to do quite a few times, you know.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Over the past year and a bit, we do get the odd tweet and Facebook. When are you going to do Blink? When are you going to do Blink then? Have you guys thought about doing Blink?
Yeah.
I've got one for you. Why don't
We
you do
have
Blink?
thought about it.
And I'm not insinuating that that's how any of you talk. That's just me being stupid. But yes, Adam, you know, because we're doing this over Skype, I want you to stare at me. I don't want any looking away. Just give it to me. What are we doing?
I'm covering my eyes in the weeping angel way, just so you know, listener. Well, you're never going to believe it, but this week we're doing Blink.
Don't blink. Blink and you're dead. Don't turn your back. Don't look away. And don't blink. Good luck.
Ooh. It's one of those sort of semi-creepy, scary ones.
Yeah.
And a good introduction to one of the most famous Doctor Who monsters from Modern Who. Thanks to this one. It's
one of the best new Doctor Who monsters, isn't it? Even though I think this is their best story, they were kind of watered down a bit, I think, in the other ones. But yeah, they are still a really good creation, aren't they? These guys.
They are
the Weeping Angels.
The angels that weep. And we'll come on to this a little bit later, but before we get into the details, one of the things that is quite incredible about Blink is that it's written by Stephen Moffat, and it's you know, and just the writing alone, you know, is potentially one of the best things that he's ever written for Doctor Who.
Yes,
you know,
it's timey-wimey, very, very timey-wimey, but he actually does it really well, doesn't he, in this one?
Yes, and it's quite seeing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, he wrote some fantastic stuff, you know, when he was he started with Matt Smith's era. Wrote some not so good stuff, but he has wrote some great stuff. But we'll come on to this later. But it's definitely one of those scripts where you think, "Wow, did Moffat write that?" You know, if you've been into Who a little bit and you want to rewind, you know, so if you're a newer viewer to Who, or Matt Smith is your Doctor, and that's it, and then you decided that you want to rewind a bit and check out some previous Doctors, when you get to this one, it is a little bit of a surprise. You think, wow, did Moffat write this one?
It's hard to believe that the same person who wrote this wrote some of the other stuff we've seen from him, because it is the script is really tight. It's clever. It's funny as well. Stephen Moffat often gets criticised for not being able to write female characters, which a lot of that I would agree with. But with this one, the writing for Sally Sparrow is really good. She's a really good female character in Doctor Who, so you know, it's one of the few times where he's really got that right. When we said at the beginning that I'm kind of glad I gave this another watch before we reviewed it, because the first time it said I thought it was good, but I didn't get why the internet exploded over it. I thought, well, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't, because people were going nuts.
The internet exploded.
It did. People were like, wow, that's the best episode ever. And it didn't even hardly have the Doctor in it, because it's Doctor-like story. But so, yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a little bit overrated. Watched it again a couple of times over the years. Always thought it was very strong. When I watched this on Tuesday, I don't know what it was. I absolutely loved it. It finally, I mean, I've always thought it was good, but it finally sort of went right up there with being one of the best. I don't know. It just, everything clicked when I watched this the other day. Just everything about it. I was just sat there thinking, this episode is brilliant. You know, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I've always liked it, but I just think now I get it. Now it's a great, strong story. There are a couple of little bits where I think it could have been improved, which we'll go into, but overall, yeah, Stephen Moffat should be very proud of this story. It's cracking. Yes,
and I'm glad that you went through some of that stuff, because I completely concur, because I've seen this one a few times, but I haven't seen it in a while. And it was one of those times where I stuck it on, and literally halfway through, I was like, oh my God, I completely and utterly forgot about quite an important character in the story. Because when I think about this episode, when people say, what do you think about Blink? And, you've seen Blink, what do you reckon? I always think of, obviously, Sally Sparrow.
Yeah.
And I think of the scene where her and Larry take the DVD player to the mansion, the old manor house, and they have that sort of conversation across time with the Doctor, and then the angels chasing them, and then that scene where the angels are trying to get into the TARDIS and stuff.
Yes, that's brilliant when it's rocking from side to side. Yeah.
So I remember all that stuff, but for some reason there were just key elements that were completely obliterated from my memory. I have no idea why. And then when I watched this yesterday, I was like, wow, this is... So I'm like you. I thought it before, the previous times when I watched it, it's probably about a year since I've watched this one. I remember thinking, that was a really good episode. And then when I rewatched it yesterday, I thought that is a cracking episode.
I got really engrossed in it.
Yeah.
Much more than ever before. And I don't know why. Maybe because I was writing notes, reviewing it. I don't know. But I got really, really engrossed in the story of it this time.
Yeah.
Who was the character you forgot?
It was the policeman.
Yes.
It was D.I. Billy Shipton. I'd completely forgotten about him. I don't know why, because, he's not really... he's quite integral to the plot.
Yeah.
And I just completely forgot. So before yesterday, if you'd have said to me, tell me the characters who are in Blink, I would have said Sally, Kathy, obviously, Larry... the guy that turns up at the house with the letter, Kathy's grandson.
Yeah.
The guy sitting on the wall when Kathy goes back to 1920, the first guy that she sees sitting on the wall, all that, obviously the Doctor and Martha, but I would have completely just overlooked old Billy.
I know what you mean.
I don't know why though.
That scene in the where she goes to see him when he's old, in the hospital. See, I'd forgotten all about that, how that all loops around and ties up. And I was thinking, I actually was quite, this is what I mean about being really engrossed in it when I watched it this week. I was actually getting a bit choked up at that scene. And I was thinking, now, come on, Ad, how many times have you watched this episode? And a bit like you just said, I'd almost forgotten about that whole bit, and I was getting a little bit teary. I was thinking, that's quite subtle, because he's like beautiful girl or whatever, isn't he? And he's, like you said, he's had to live out this life just to bring her the letter, and
sad,
it is sad.
Which is really, it's a testament really to the stronger elements of the story, because it's those things that stand out so much that it doesn't put the other things in shadow because they're because they're not any good. Like, all the characters are fairly good in this, or they're very good, in fact. It's just that Moffat created such a great monster and a great villain with the Weeping Angels, and there's that iconic, it will go down as an iconic piece of of TV, with the Doctor doing that famous quote through the TV and stuff like that. I think those things are so large in people's minds that they eclipse like the smaller elements of the episode maybe.
Yeah, there's some great ideas in it. I mean, because when you actually watch the episode as well, it is not the fastest paced in terms of action, because I was thinking this yesterday, thinking, would younger viewers that would have been watching back then, because back in the David Tennant era, where a lot more sort of younger kids watch Doctor Who than perhaps they do now, or they've just grown up basically, but would they have been engrossed in it as we are? Because it does, there's not a lot of action in it, in terms of it's mainly just really, really good storytelling.
Yes.
But there's not many action scenes until we get to the end. So the actual beginning part, if you think about it, it's mostly conversation, talking, a little bit of this, there, we sort of get to know the characters more. So there's not a lot of actual, action bits going on. But I'm thinking it is so well written that it doesn't feel slow, or I didn't find myself looking at my watch, because I actually really got engrossed in what was going on. The Doctor doesn't come into it properly until about 20 minutes in, I don't think. 22 minutes, I wrote it down, before he actually appears on screen. He's obviously, we get to see him on the TV, but it's not until we really see him, it's about 20 minutes in.
Yeah, and that's the scene where he speaks to the young Billy.
That's it, with him and Martha with that strange device. Yeah,
That's right, yeah. So, right, let's quickly talk about the story, because, the story is, fairly... actually, let's just go back and mention who actually directed this, because it's quite a milestone for new Doctor Who, because obviously it was written by Stephen Moffat, but it was directed by Hetty MacDonald. And she was the first female director to direct an episode of Who since... When was it? Way back when? Time in the Rani.
Way back when? Time in the Rani?
Yeah.
Who directed Time in the Rani?
Time in the Rani was...
Didn't realise it was that far back.
Yes.
All right.
It was... hold on.
While Gary's looking for it, I'll just tell you all how much I love Time in the Rani, and for once I'm not being sarcastic. As anyone who's listened to our review knows, I'm unashamedly a Time in the Rani fan.
Right, yeah, so I've just opened up Wiki. So Blink was directed by Hetty MacDonald, making her the first female director of a Doctor Who episode since the 6th Doctor serial, The Mark of the Rani.
Oh, The Mark of the Rani,
Very
right.
sorry, yeah, The Mark of the Rani, which was directed by Sarah Hellings.
Oh, Sarah Hellings. Okay, yeah. That's another good story, actually, yeah.
So, female director, and for me, this was one of the best directed episodes from the series.
It's brilliantly directed. There is some of the shots in it are stunning. I'm thinking you just reminded me of one when we, what's the name of the character that goes back to the Yorkshire Dales, and we get a shot of them walking across the hills and the skies in the background. It's almost like a painting. It's beautiful.
Kathy goes
Kathy,
back.
yes,
Yep.
when she goes back. But overall, yeah, I mean, all the sort of the way the angels are filmed in the sort of house, the scary, old battered up house that they go in. Yeah, it's very nicely directed, I have to say.
It is very nice. And it moves along at a really nice pace as well. Because it would have been all too easy to try and make this, like you mentioned, there aren't many action scenes until we get later on in the story where Sally and Larry are at that scene where they realise that, these statues are actually real. They buy into the Doctor's story. And they start getting chased down into the basement and then around the TARDIS. Up until that point, it all flows along really nicely. So you have these lovely scenes where, like you said, where you have Kathy walking across the fields. Even the scene where she first goes, when she gets thrown back in time, and there's the guy sitting on the wall. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. I think his name's Ben.
The guy she marries.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No, maybe possibly. Anyway, the young chap that's sitting on the wall. There's when she first goes back in time, and she has like a very quick like, "Where am I? What's going on?" And he's like, "You're in Hull." She's like, "No, I'm not. I was just in London." That scene. And then when they finish talking, the camera sort of pulls back lovely, and he's like up on the wall with the tree. She's sitting there, it's almost silhouetted. Things like that just makes all the difference when you're trying to tell a story, because you've got these lovely big establishing shots, and like you said with the house as well. Just the way that the camera sort of moves really nice and slowly across things. And in dialogue as well, when people are having dialogue, it's that nice sort of back and forward, talking heads kind of thing. But then there's also, it's, thrown in the mix with that, you have these really nice shots that just pan across slowly, and it's just really nice. It's a lovely looking episode.
It is, yeah. And you're saying about the way it sort of builds as well, because it, like you said, there's a good mixture of getting to know the characters in this, and the sort of build up of tension really builds nicely all the way through. It sort of just keeps ramping up every sort of couple of scenes, ramps up another bit more and another bit more. It's really well done. I mean, the music helps as well. So you got brilliant direction, lovely looking episode. Murray's music is really good in it. I have to say, I don't think it's his best work, and the only reason I say that is because there are sort of some of the lighter moments where we sort of get this electric piano music that reminds me of like New Tricks, that doom ding ding, it's kind of just background moving the scene along. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit that. But when Murray does shine, when we get to sort of the angels come in for people, I mean that's his music really emphasises those scenes to make them scary. I think they might have held back just a little though on the jump factor in this. I think that's only one of my very few criticisms of this story. It is well directed, but I do think it could have been even more creepy, even more jumpy. But I have a feeling they might have done that on purpose to make it a bit more, Russell's era was a bit more family orientated. So I think perhaps they might have held back on that, because I'm sure that they could have made this really, really scary if they'd have wanted to. If this had been under Moffat's reign, I have a feeling he would have ramped up the horror a bit more in this one.
I completely agree. They could have gone to town on it and made it like super creepy. Yeah. Because the angels, they are often voted, aren't they, as one of the scariest monsters from Who, so they really could have played up the whole sort of direct scare factor. But one thing that I did like about the episode is, as a result of not doing that, it made the concept a lot scarier for me, because they did this thing where, I think it's the end, I think it's the last couple of minutes, where they insinuate that, any statue out in the world could be a weeping angel. Yeah. Which is terrifying, because they do all these
absolutely brilliant.
They do all these different shots, don't they, of these various statues, I'm assuming around Cardiff and Wales. And it does trick your mind. You do think, well, hold on, that's a good point. Because I had the gargoyle up on the thing, and then I have these like statues out in town, and the music's, a bit creepy as well. And the way they cut to each statue, it does play on your mind a little bit. So I think as an offshoot to that, by not having the sort of typical horror movie jumps and scares, as a nice little byproduct of that, we do have this sort of more sinister, sort of long-term fear about statues now, I guess.
I thought the ending was absolutely genius, actually. I'm glad you've mentioned it. I just thought, what a way to end it, because, I think that goes back to the sort of classic era of making something that's an everyday thing that you would walk past and not think anything of. And if you're a small kid, they might have walked past something the next day and thought, could be a weeping angel, that statue. And I just thought that was brilliant and reminded me of the classic era a lot, and the way it builds with Tennant talking on the screen as well. It just ends the episode brilliantly. It's perfect. That ending.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And before we get on to some of the cast, just a bit more story stuff. What did you think to the whole? Because it is quite timey-wimey, the concept of...
Oh, very.
Because there were a couple of times where I thought... And I don't like to pick holes, because it is very cleverly written and stuff. But, like, for example, there's a scene where she's talking to she's having a conversation with the doctor on the telly. And I think she asks him, how do you know what I'm going to say 40 years before, I've said it? And he says, look to your left.
Yeah.
So how does he know where she's watching this?
I did think that. I was thinking because the other bits make sense, but how would he know? Because he wouldn't have written. Oh, I don't know. You see, I'll tell you what. This is the thing with this episode. If you think too much about things like that, it's a mind melt.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because I was thinking that.
Yeah, because I thought that the doctor obviously knows that she's sitting there with Larry, because he's transcribing the conversation. So that's all good. Yeah. But how does he know that she was specifically sitting in front of a TV and he was off to her left?
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. And you're right. When you overthink it, it's like my mind just can't cope, because you end up going into like the time loops and all this sorts of stuff. And so what did you think to the whole sort of timey-wimey aspect? Because it's the first time that the doctor explicitly states that,
wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah, they're basically buying themselves a get-out-of-jail-free card with that statement, aren't they? Because what they're saying is, don't worry too much about the aspects of time travel and stuff. Don't let it trouble your mind. All you need to know is it's a bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you reckon to that? Because it's the first time that the doctor's actually said, really, I think they're saying it to the viewer. He's kind of saying, yes, Doctor Who can be very timey-wimey at times, and because we don't want you to concentrate on continuity errors, just forget about it. It's timey-wimey.
Just enjoy it. Yeah,
Just enjoy it.
There's reasons and get outs for everything. No, I think that is the thing. I mean, it does work incredibly well in this. I mean, we all know how Stephen Moffat loves to be timey-wimey. But it's very successful in this. I mean, you do naturally in your mind while you're watching it try to sort of catch him out, even if you don't realise you're doing it. Because I was sort of thinking when Bill is, old in the bed, and I was thinking, so does that mean he's had to live all this time up until that point? Wouldn't he have met his young self, or has his young self disappeared because he's gone? The angels are going. I mean, there are so many things you could read into it and pick apart. But I think Peter Capaldi sort of said once on stage, he's like, if you're going to do that with a story, where are you going to stop? Because you could say that about the whole premise of Doctor Who. It's a guy traveling around in a police box that's bigger on the inside than the outside. Where do you stop if you start picking things to pieces?
Exactly.
You've just got to enjoy it.
Yep.
But I have to say, I think this is pretty tight. I mean, I can think of sort of other Stephen Moffat stories where there are quite a lot of plot holes, and you sort of think, okay. I mean, I think some of them he even just sort of says, there is a big plot hole there, but go with it. I think, wasn't it Magician's Apprentice, where he's like, I'm not even going to bother explaining it. I'm just going to tell you to go with it. Yeah. So, but this one I think is pretty tight. Yeah. There's the odd bit that makes you think, but I think in a good way, rather than the sort of sat there thinking, that can't happen because blah, blah, blah. Well, this one, I think it's more of, well, that's interesting, but would it be, So, yeah, I think he's done it pretty well in this, I have to say.
I agree. It is done. It is fairly tight. And like you, I was watching it thinking there must be a little something, there must be a little catch here and there. So, but it's absolutely one of those times where you just sort of, suspend your belief.
That's it.
And just, get wrapped up in the whole thing, which you do. I think you mentioned it earlier where you've got engrossed in this one, and you were, you were intrigued, moving forward more so than you have on previous watches. And I was the same. I was sort of couldn't tear myself away. I really wanted to get through the episode, and it was an enjoyable because you do have to think about stuff in this one. You do have to concentrate, especially on some of the scenes where the Doctor's explaining what's going on, and a lot of the scenes where Sally is trying to decipher what's going on as well. You do have to concentrate a little bit as you watch through the episode, but it's an enjoyable thinking time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's right, because your mind's trying to piece it together as the episode moves along, and by the time you get to the end of it, the good thing with this episode is it does all work.
It does.
Yeah, whereas I think sometimes in an episode you might be sort of going through it trying to piece it together, and you don't always get the payoff with Stephen Moffat's scripts at the end of the episode. Sometimes you have to wait a whole blimmin' 2 series before you get the payoff. So it's quite nice at the end of this. It just all fits very nicely together, I think. Yeah.
And there's one very big aspect of this episode that I really like as well. And I must apologise now to one of our listeners, Jay Kent.
Oh, yeah.
Because he mentions the same thing in his audio review, which we'll play in a little while. So I'm very, very sorry to steal your thunder on that. But it's something that I thought about a couple of times as well about this episode. And that is the way that Moffat has written the angels. He absolutely puts the viewer in the story. Because the concept of the angels is that they turn to stone when they're observed by any living thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they could have very easily slipped up with that. And, well, not slipped up, but they could have very easily done this thing where when the actors within the episode aren't viewing the angels, we as the viewer could have seen what they were like when they're not stone creatures.
I'm with you.
Do you know what I mean? So even as the viewer, we never see them at any time other than as their stone statue. So that makes it even more creepy because we don't know what they're like when they're not being observed.
Now that's interesting because in the other angel story, we did see a bit of that, and
a little bit,
and I think it was a mistake, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
We saw them slightly moving, and we're thinking, no, we don't want to see that because they're supposed to move like lightning, and it does make it so much more creepier. You're right, because you're waiting for them to move the whole time. When as if you see them moving slowly, what's that story called? The Next Angel one, Hungry Earth or something.
The Next Angels one.
Is it Hungry Earth? And I can't remember the Silurian one. But you sort of see them moving, don't you? And it takes away a bit of the magic, I think. So I think you're absolutely right. It's so much better when we just see them static. It's also weird though, because they're always static. Don't you think it's weird that they actually got two people to play some of the Weeping Angels? Like, we don't see them move. I never understand why these poor actors had to endure hours of makeup to stand absolutely still. Why didn't they just, make it?
They didn't have to stand absolutely still.
I suppose they do move their hands, but we don't see it. I don't know.
Because, the way that they filmed it was they needed to have actors doing that because they couldn't afford to build, even if they were like polystyrene or, whatever statues they were, that quite cheap to make. The angels move in so many poses, hands across the face, arm across the face, reaching out, different facial. It would have been such a ball ache to just move them around all the time.
That's a very good point, actually.
And what they did was they got actors to play the different poses, and they did move around a bit. But what they did was, in post-production, they froze them.
Ah, right.
So any time when there's not a lot of movement going in front or behind any of the angels, they cleverly sort of, took the figures out in post-production. Not took them out, but they sort of masked them and just froze them in the scene.
Gotcha, that's interesting. Actually, it does make a lot more sense. And I was going to say, because their still acting is superb, but that explains it. I'll tell you, the bit I love is when she looks out of the police cell window, and there's two statues by the church, and she blinks, and then the next shot, she's like, oh, they've gone. Yes, and then the camera pans back, and they're outside the window she's looking out. That is absolutely brilliant.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy as.
It's very creepy.
So good.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Weeping Angels, fair play to Stephen Moffat. It did create such a great concept. Brilliant monster for Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
One of his little shining moments of genius there. Okay, let's talk about, if you've got no more story, scripty, timey-wimey stuff that you want to mention.
No, the other thing I would just say, though, but going back to Stephen Moffat, when we do knock them off, this does remind me how many great little ideas he just suddenly plucks out the air, because the other bit I love in this is the DVD extras bit. That that there's these little messages on DVDs from the Doctor, and you have to put them all together. And
that's right.
What a great little idea that is, and it works. Because obviously he was given the task of writing a script, a Doctor-like script. Mm-hmm. The Doctor can't be in it much, but what a great way of getting around it, having these clips that Sally Sparrow interacts with, and I just thought that was such a nice, simple, brilliant, clever idea. And it's every now and again Stephen Moffat just pulls something like that out of the air, and combine that with the creation of the Weeping Angels. He's on fire on this one. He really is. Yeah,
and it goes to show just how great a writer he is when he hasn't got all the other noise in the background going on.
Absolutely.
So when at this point in time when he wasn't showrunner, he just pulls out this fantastic script and story.
Yeah,
just when he hasn't got all that pressure and everything else going on, he can just focus solely on his individual little bubble of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
it's great. Right, casting stuff. Let's talk about very quickly then the Angels. Fantastic design,
lovely design. Yeah,
absolutely timeless. They've got that. I think Stephen Moffat took inspiration from an angel statue that he did actually see in a graveyard somewhere.
Oh, okay.
And they've sort of, they've designed that. You could picture one of these in a graveyard somewhere, looking very creepy, looking quite sinister, especially at night time.
Absolutely. I guess a true story here. There is a house 5 minutes from where I live. It's got this little path that goes right to the top of their garden that you can see. And right at the end of the path, I absolutely swear to you, is what looks exactly like one of these Weeping Angels.
No way.
And I cannot, every single time I walk past the house, I just have to look at it. And I've even tried to get a picture of it, but it's quite a long path, but you can just see this stone statue angel about the size of a person
No
at the end of
way.
it. I know, honestly, I'll try and get a picture, but I always feel bad because it's someone's house. But yeah, I think of it every time I walk past. And again, that's why I love this story, because it's in my head, that is a weeping angel. And in my head, every time I walk past, it gets a little bit closer.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
creepy.
It is.
Even things like in the Who shop in London, they sell these round plaque, not a plaque thing, but it's like a circular piece of wood, and it's got the angel's head
Oh, okay.
on the front, and they're in that pose where they've got their mouth open and their teeth are baring.
Oh, yeah.
And I always wind up because my wife absolutely hates the weeping angels.
Really?
Not hate them because she dislikes them as a Doctor Who monster, but because she's so scared.
Yeah.
Because when I said to her yesterday, when you get in later, we're going to watch Blink because we're reviewing it on the podcast, and she's like, nope. She's like, nope, you can watch that on.
Seen it.
Yeah, she's like, you can watch it on your own. I can't watch it. She's genuinely quite terrified of them.
Yeah.
And I always wind her up and say, I'm going to get that. The next time we're in the Who shop, I'm going to get it, and it will go, above the back door or something. And she freaks out.
We must get it next time with her.
So yeah, the angels are a great design, and another example of just keeping it simple. They look exactly as you would expect them to look. So if you describe these to somebody, it's like an old looking angelic statue that you'd see in a graveyard. These absolutely fit that description. So great stuff there.
Yeah.
Right. Some other live action people.
Mm-hmm.
What about old Billy then? Billy Shipton, young Billy and old Billy.
Young Billy and old Billy.
Yeah.
Quite a nice little character, actually. I mean, he's quite sweet, isn't it? How he's a bit of a lad. He just, asks Sally Sparrow out within 5 minutes of meeting her, doesn't he?
He's very confident, isn't he?
He's confident.
Young Billy, yeah. And I like that. It's it's like a bit of a refresher in the episode, if you like, because up to this point and absolutely after this point, he is a little bit sinister, and it is a sort of edge of your seat sort of episode, isn't it? It's very creepy, and so this is like a little refresher moment where it's very light-hearted. There's a bit of banter between him and Sally.
Oh, there's a brilliant
funny
bit where she says his surname instead of hers. What a lovely little bit of writing. What is his surname? Shipton.
Shipton, yeah.
She says, "Oh, I'm Sally Shipton." Sparrow. Like she's already married him in her head. A lovely little bit of writing that.
Yeah. So it's a nice little moment where it's sort of light-hearted and sort of lifts you out of the fear of the rest of the episode for a bit, which is nice. And the old Billy as well. He was, very, very good actor playing old Billy. Very sincere, very genuine.
Yeah, he gives a nice performance. I rewound actually because he said something about losing his hair, and I thought, well, you didn't have any hair even as young Billy. But then I forgot you do see that picture of him married where he's got like a bit of an afro.
Oh, that's right.
So I was like, oh, we did have hair. Yeah,
That's
I thought they'd slipped up there. See, that's what I mean about trying to catch them out. But yeah, it's a lovely little performance. And again, coming back to the direction, just having like the rain pouring outside and the reflection on them in the hospital waiting room, just really, again, beautifully shot.
Yeah, lovely. And quite sad as well. Quite a sad little moment with old Billy.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing she can do, obviously. He's on his deathbed, basically.
Do you know what I like about that scene as well is when she stays with him, obviously, because it's his last night.
Mm-hmm.
See, that again, that's the other thing I started thinking, couldn't he have met her before? But I suppose the doctor's told him it's got to be now. I don't know. Again, you could read all sorts into it. But what I love about that scene is that that's when she finally accepts the situation, isn't it? Because she's sort of there. She waits with him until he passes away. And then she's like, right. And then the music kicks in and we're off. And it's like everything suddenly comes together at that point.
Yes.
It's like, dun, 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 dun. You're like, oh, yes, here we go. Because up to that point, she's kind of like, what the hell's going on? I don't understand any of this. Yeah. So I really like that bit where it all clicks and kicks in.
Yeah, it's good. Larry. Actually, no, before we get on to Larry, the other guy that works in the DVD shop.
Oh.
Really funny.
That's like a that's like a sort of spaced moment, isn't it? Or something.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really funny, just 10 seconds when she goes into the shop and he's just sat on the stool, isn't he? And he's looking up watching this DVD and he won't acknowledge anyone until that scene's done. So he's watching and he's like, yes. And she's like, I think she said looking for Larry or something. And he's like, He's at the back. Like, what did you need me to tell you that for? And then he's back to the really cool little moment like that.
Yeah, I love that because I think we've all met shop assistants like that just sort of treat us with contempt for interrupting them in the shop.
Yeah.
I also like the leery little look he gives her as she walks off. He's such a you get his character within that sort of 20-second scene. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I wanted to see a bit more of him.
Yeah,
because he was, mind you, I think they got the balance right in the episode. So maybe if we saw more of him, it would have sort of taken away from the rest of the series, rest of the episode. But he was very funny. I don't know what his name. What's his name? Malcolm.
I'm not sure. It's a nice little scene.
Or maybe I'm not sure. It was either Malcolm or Banto.
Banto sounds more like it. But I'm not sure what his name was.
Yeah.
No.
So lovely little, just very very short little scene there with that guy, and then Larry, the brother of Kathy.
Yeah, Larry.
He's been in some stuff before, and I can't place him.
Yes,
Finley Robertson.
He's got that face, isn't he, where you think, oh, I know him, but yeah, I was the same. Couldn't tell you anything he's done, but I recognise him as well. Yeah.
Yes, he played his role pretty good. He played his role pretty well. I thought he had like a very sort of movie geekness, coolness to about him, which I think a lot of us can relate to. You know, those of us that really like our TV and movies and stuff like that, we do sort of obsess over the little details, like all the special features on discs and Easter eggs and all that stuff. So he's quite relatable, I think, to the target audience.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good. And he also played that looking absolutely petrified as well.
He's a bit of a, I don't know, you can imagine, he's a bit of a sort of drifts through life kind of guy. Just, like you said, a bit of a geek, likes his stuff, likes to shut himself away and watch movies and play games. And yeah, like you said, quite relatable.
Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of that. But no, I thought he was one of the things that was better than I remembered, actually. I remember thinking he was a bit of a weak character, and I actually really liked him when I watched this again the other day. I thought he almost reminded me a little bit of Rory to a certain extent, just that sort of
okay.
I don't know, the sort of flippant comment, you know, the sort of don't have a go at me sort of thing. I don't know, there was a little bit of Rory to him, I thought, but yeah, I think he gives a really good little performance as well. And you know, especially when he's trapped with the angels at the end, I felt sorry for him. I was like, what is Sally doing? She's just left him there with these angels coming towards him. But yeah, I thought he was quite good in it, actually. Yeah,
I thought so. He's got this very laid back, really laid back, because I think the first time she sees him, he's just wandering around the house like butt naked.
Yeah.
He does.
Oh, that's funny when he remembers as well, and he's clothed, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's
like,
right. There it is. He covers himself up.
So he has got this very laid back, you know, chilled thing going on, which is good. But he also, when he's like, when he's really scared, when the angels are like, you know, she's told him not to look away, and he doesn't know what to do with himself because there's all commotion going on. He's trying to maintain focus and look at this angel that's in front of him, and Sally's doing whatever she's doing. That's all really well directed as well. Great stuff in that bit.
So he's a character I'd like to see again, though, because if you'd have asked me before we watched this, I would have probably said no, not really. But I really sort of took to him with a rewatch. I quite liked him.
He was good, actually. And he did. I think you're right. I've not thought of that before, but he did have a touch of the Rorys about him.
Just a little bit, yeah. Just a sort of harmless, quite gentle sort of character, yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine those scenes with Amy and Rory as well, where Amy's the stronger one.
Yes,
you know, sort of taking care of business, and you know, Rory's just like crapping his pants, like, oh my god, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was quite similar to that dynamic, which is good. Kathy Nightingale, Sally's best mate.
Yeah,
a bit of a sad one for her.
Well, it is, but then again, I'll tell you what I love about it is that she finds a life. And again, although we don't get to sort of know that much about her, I really liked her because I love the fact that she sent a letter with the photo showing that she got married. And she's like, what I love about it, she's like, don't feel bad for what's happened to me because I've had the best life. And I kind of like that because she gets transported back to a very much simpler time, something that perhaps we'd all like to sometimes go back to. So I really liked that. I thought it was a lovely idea that, you know, that actually she had decided that although this had happened to her, that this was a much better time for her to be in, and she made the most of it. So I thought that was a lovely bit of writing, actually.
Yes, it does make you it does make you think differently after because when she first gets, transported back to, was it 1920?
Yeah.
You do immediately feel like, oh no. And you almost feel like, Sally, why have you done this? You sort of dragged your mate along. And now, she's ended up, because as far as I understand it, even if the Doctor wanted to go back in time and rescue her, he couldn't, because the way that the angels, there's something about that, isn't it? Where, so, and that's bugging me now, why that is.
He says it in the, again, it is slightly glossed over. He says it when he meets up with young Billy, when Billy gets transported. He says something like, I'm sorry. He does his sorry speech that the 10th Doctor often does.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't take you back because...
That's right.
And then I can't remember what he says, but it's basically Stephen Moffat saying in the script, look, there is a reason. It's too long for me to go into. Just go with it. Basically the Doctor says that, doesn't he? He's like, I can't do anything about it because, well, it's wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, but just trust me, sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, and he does mention, doesn't he, that the angels are quantum locked.
Quantum locked, yeah, love that saying.
Yeah, it's cool. So I think it's something to do with that.
Yes.
So you do feel very sorry for her at first. You feel like, even if the Doctor, somehow, Sally was to, say to him, I need you to go back and, bring my friend back. He couldn't anyway. So initially you feel sad. But then, like you said, in that letter that she wrote, she does say, I've had a great life. So it kind of evens itself out, because the life that she had, while she was in, 2007? She wasn't really doing much. You get the feeling, you get the feeling that she was just a single lass, not really doing much. So maybe this, sort of is a sort of nice karma, if you like. So she ends up marrying that guy that she met on the wall the very first time she landed there, and then has those kids. And so, yeah, that sort of sadness and that sort of feeling that you feel when you first watch that bit, it does sort of get erased, if you like, when Sally's reading out the letter. You do think, oh, she didn't end up too bad.
Yeah, I love the idea of that, because I think it sort of made me think. Because I was thinking, the sort of time that we live in, I'm thinking, spend my days on computers, phones, we all do it. I was thinking, what if we were transported back to a life when there was none of that?
Yeah.
And we just met somebody, and you can just sort of imagine that sort of fairy tale life of, very much simpler times, and she gets married, has kids, and she just loves it, And I thought that is quite a nice little thought, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good. And I have to say, once again, in my head, I always remembered her performance being a bit theatre. And actually, it's not at all. She actually gives a good little performance. So what's the actress name? Lucy Gaskell.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah. She, again, was much better than I sort of thought in my head. I thought she gave a nice little performance. Yeah.
And Sally
Sparrow.
Sally Sparrow.
The companion that never was, but could have been so good.
Not related to Captain Jack Sparrow. She could have been a great companion.
Oh, she is just, what's the actress's name? Carey Mulligan.
Carey Mulligan, yeah. She
is just so good.
There was one scene, there was one line that she says that cemented that thought for me. When she's having the conversation through the TV with the Doctor, and he says, something about time. He says it's complicated, and she's like, tell me, and he's like, it's very complicated. She then says something like, well, I'm clever. Well, I'm clever. People have died and I'm not happy. The way that she delivers that line, that was just it for me. I was like, she would be such a good companion, because she's one of these people you can tell that won't take any nonsense from the Doctor. And she is very clever. She is very smart. So she's got that really good combination of things that you would associate with a companion. So when I heard her say that, I remember the very first time I watched it, I was like, wow, she's good.
Yeah.
She's very good, quite authoritative. And just a really good, just a really well-written character as well. Not one of these damsels in distress that's like, this is happening around me, I don't know what's going on. She takes control. She wants to know what's going on. And just and really good performance as well.
Superb performance. Yeah, she handles the comedy moments brilliantly. She handles the horror moments brilliantly. Like you said, she handles the bits with the Doctor brilliantly.
Yeah.
She's just superb. I would love to have seen her like join the Doctor. I did keep thinking, I was thinking, is she too similar to Rose? Would it, if she'd have joined the Doctor, would people have been saying, "Oh, it's another Rose"? But I think she's much, much better than that. I really, really love the character. I think she's incredibly well written. I know, as I said earlier, Moffat always gets slated for the way he writes female characters, and a lot of that is justified. But he did a really good job writing this character. She's likable. Probably a lot of it is down to her performance as well. She's a really, really good little actress. Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, really want to see more of her.
Yeah, and I don't feel like we would have had, any of that.
The Rose.
That Rose stuff, because there was none of that flirtatious stuff going on with her and the Doctor. She didn't really,
True.
She didn't immediately have that, that look about her where she's like, ooh, he's nice. There was none of that, that Rose potentially had and Martha had as well at the beginning. She's a bit more towards Donna rather than Rose with that side of things.
Yeah, she's stronger, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. So
she went on to, sorry.
I agree with you, mate. She'd have been a great companion.
I was just going to say, she's done quite well, I think, this actor. She's done quite a lot of film, I think. Did she go off to the States or something? So I don't think, I gotta say, I'd love to see her again. But I don't know. I think she's gone on to do quite big things, I believe. But it would be great to see the Doctor visit Sally Sparrow again. That's a lovely scene as well when she runs out the DVD store at the end and gives him all the information. And he's like, I've really got to, what is it? There's 4 things in a lizard or something. He's like, I've got to go. I really haven't got time. And she's like, of course, you haven't met me yet. And again, like you just said, it just shows what a great companion, because she's worked it out for herself. She's a very intelligent woman. Yeah, she's like, of course, it's me that gives you all the information. And again, ties everything up just perfectly. But such a good, she would have been such a good companion.
Yeah.
Would have loved it.
And we can very briefly talk about the Doctor and Martha, because they're only in it for, several minutes. I have to say, wasn't a fan of Martha in this one.
She only gets about 5 lines.
But every time that she's in it, she's incredibly naggy.
She's a bit like, oh, I don't want to be here, isn't she?
Yeah, like she sort of butts in when the Doctor's talking on the DVD.
Oh, that's right.
She's like, time traveller, all that lot, and I'm working the shop supporting it. It's, and then when she when him and the Doctor show up at the end, when Sally's giving him all the info in the folder, she's banging on at him like every 10 seconds. She's like, Doctor,
come on.
Yeah. In my head, I'm thinking, shut up. He's trying to have a conversation here. So I found her just incredibly naggy and whingy, sort of unnecessarily. It's, I don't know. I've got huge complaints about Martha in general. I don't think she's, the best companion from newer Doctor Who, but she didn't do herself any favours in this one. She's really like moany.
I know a lot of people feel that about Martha. We'll have to have a little chat about Martha one day, because I quite like her. But yeah, she didn't bother me that much in this. I think she was just didn't have a lot to do, so they just made her a bit naggy. I'll tell you what I love though, is I love the fact we see the Doctor and Martha again, like you said, coming from sort of our viewpoint. So they're on an adventure doing something that we're not getting to see. We just sort of see them passing us on the street. Yeah. That's lovely idea. That is, to think that they're off doing all this while we're just living our everyday lives. Is really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, she didn't bother me that much. I don't mind Martha.
No, I don't. I don't mind Martha at all. I'm not saying I don't like her. She's a pretty good companion, but in this particular one, the only purpose that she serves is to nag the Doctor. It's just
true.
A bit like, whatever. And then David Tennant's scene, when he's, that famous line, like, don't look away, that's really, that's classic David Tennant, he's brilliantly delivered.
Absolutely superb, isn't it? Yeah. It's so good. It's the voice, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
How they work it into the episode. And like coming full circle back to the end bit where he's saying that speech about don't blink over the montage of statues.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb. Yeah, it's amazing that he's hardly in it and yet he's so good in it, if that makes sense.
No, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
good times. Anything else you want to mention, mate, before we get on to our lovely listeners and what they thought?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I just think there's so many memorable, great scenes in it, from the opening of Sally revealing the words on the wall, telling her to duck, right up to the angels rocking the TARDIS, and at the end, I love it, that the fact that Sally and what's his name? Larry.
Yep.
Sari and Larry. I love the fact that they think they're being left behind and that the Doctor's tricked them, and then it actually turns out that it was all a trick on the Angels to make them look at themselves. What a brilliant way to defeat them. Because I kept thinking all the way through on the first time I watched this, how do you defeat something like that? Like, you know, how you can't destroy them. What are you going to do? So that was, it's such a simple idea when you think about it, but it's such a good idea and visually brilliant, isn't it? Having them all round them, you know, like in a circle. Yeah. Oh, superb.
Yeah. It's a simple concept as well, isn't it? You know, you would think that there would be some elaborate, huge, you know, timey-wimey Doctor Who sci-fi way of, you know, defeating them. But no, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, they've turned to stone when they're being looked at. So just have them look at each other. It's just so simple, but it works brilliantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good stuff.
Absolutely.
Right. Before listener stuff, it's our scores, obviously. So it's me to go first, I believe.
Yeah.
This week. This is a pretty easy one for me. I'm going to go with a 9.
I thought you would, because I've done the same.
Have you? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've gone 9 out of 10. Yeah.
I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 because although I think it's an amazing episode and I think it is a modern sort of classic in terms of, you know, modern Doctor Who, there are just a couple of little things that sort of knock off that point for making it a perfect episode. The first one is there are a couple of times where I thought they sort of overplayed, like the Angels sort of coming towards them a little bit. So when Sally's in the house to begin with, she realizes that the statue's moved. That's quite a nice effect, but then it took quite a long time for then the Angel to sort of make its way through, and they sort of padded it out a bit with her talking to the guy at the doorstep and stuff. You know, so sometimes, you know, I felt like, you know, they were sort of overplaying like the Angel sort of, you know, doing what it's doing, you know, back and forth with the Angel moving. And you just thought, you know, you could have cut to the chase a bit quicker with that.
Yeah.
So they do overplay it a little bit. And then secondly, I think for me, a perfect Doctor Who episode has to include a Doctor from start to finish.
Okay.
For me, you know, it has to be, you know, just an unbelievably amazing performance from whichever actor is playing the Doctor. You know, so I can't give a 10 out of 10 to an episode where the Doctor's hardly in it, even though it's as good as, you know, as cracking as the episode is. A perfect episode for me would be a performance based on the Doctor throughout the episode.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to say that I'm only really knocking a point off because the only thing that slightly niggles me about this is that there are times when I can't understand why the Angels don't just get them. Like there are some scenes where, because they move like lightning, right? Yeah. So there are some scenes where they're like, I think it's near the beginning actually, isn't it? Where Sally's sort of stood looking at the wall for ages, and I kept thinking, well, that Angel could have got her by now. Like she's had her back to it all this time. What's it waiting for? Like, and there are other times that it's right in front of her. So there were bits where I thought, I don't know, it just didn't quite make sense. Why hasn't the Angel got her yet? Because it's had plenty of opportunity to get her. So that's, you know, that's something that could have been slightly tightened up in the edit, maybe, I don't know. But that's the only reason I'm knocking off a point. Yeah. Because, I thought it was good.
That's what I mean. That scene where Kathy's like hiding in the back room and the Angel's out in the garden. It takes, you know, almost forever to get to her, but they padded it out for a long time.
Yes.
It could have, you know, like you say, they move like, you know, split seconds. So it could have just taken her out so a little bit of filler stuff in there, but otherwise.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was going to say, I mean, I think it is so close to being a perfect Doctor Who episode. It's really, really not far off. If you'd have asked me before I rewatched it, I probably would have said an excellent episode, ever slightly overrated. Having watched it again, I don't think it's overrated at all. I think it's a really, really strong story. Yeah, loved it.
Superb. Right, what did our listeners think? We're going to kick off with a couple of audio reviews first. This is Daniel Fox.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Hope you're both well. So, Blink. If I had to describe it in 2 words, it would be absolute rubbish. Said Daniel in a parallel universe. I have to say this episode is brilliant. I think the pacing's really good. I think it's very scary, and probably, in fact, definitely the best episode with the Weeping Angels. I think they're very good in this. I think it's sort of Moffat's golden age on Doctor Who, personally, where he did one script every year, so we had more time to think about it and not rush it and just do. So I think that was good. And Moffat's done a good job with this episode. I think Sally Sparrow has potential to be a new companion, and I think the fact how the Doctor and Martha aren't in it much, I think that's done very well. So cheers guys, I'm going to give this episode a 9.5 out of 10.
You had me worried for a minute there,
He
Daniel.
did me as well. I thought, no, surely not, because there must be some fans out there that don't like it, but I think well, we'll see from the rest of the listeners, but I think majority do.
Yeah.
But he did have me worried there. Phew.
Cheers, Daniel. More audio. This is Owen Daly.
Hi guys, hope you're both well and enjoying the show this week. So, Blink, this is considered the best of the David Tennant era, which I have to say, fair enough, it is a good story, but I don't think it deserves as much love because there's just something about it that I find a bit dry. I'm not trying to say that I hate this story, but it's just not one that I would recommend to people to start watching Doctor Who with, or I would just decide to watch. It's just one that I'd come across in a marathon, or just one that I'd see after a year of not watching and just say, oh yeah, sure, might as well turn it on. I don't feel Blink is really, I don't know, it's just not my cup of tea, if you know what I mean. I find the Weeping Angels are fantastic in it, don't get me wrong, and the writing is one of Stephen Moffat's best, but I just don't think it's as good as people say it is, if you get me. But that said, the Weeping Angels are fantastic monsters. It's a great low-budget story. Sally Sparrow's a great companion kind of material. The Doctor is well used for what he's in, and I would give the story a 7 out of 10. So thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Owen.
I get you, Owen. Yeah, that is a little bit how I felt before a rewatch. Yeah, I hear him. Mm-hmm.
We read you.
Yeah.
Right, over on Twitter, Chris Brown. Twitter name is @CrispyCrunch. So, just says simply, one of my favourite episodes.
Oh, excellent.
George Garrity.
Multiple tweets.
Said,
Multiple tweets, Garrity.
Slightly overrated, but still great. Very iconic and original idea. Complete with great characters and some clever jump scares. The plots cross time streams as a brilliant inclusion. Sadly, I personally feel that it loses some of the horror elements upon rewatches. Still fantastic, kind of hard to believe it's the same writer as most of series 6 and 8. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Fusel Jeremaid, Twitter name is Disc Grinder, says, excellent in every measure except mole rats, because mole rat is not recognised as a measure. Read into that what you will. Roxanne J10 says, just so happens it's my very first episode that I recorded 3 years ago.
Wow.
Brilliant. This one got me hooked on Who.
Really?
10 out of 10.
That's interesting, because that comment before said, would you recommend this as, if you're trying to get somebody into Doctor Who? And as much as I think it's brilliant, I don't know if I would, mainly because the Doctor's not in it, but that's really interesting that that it was the first episode. Yeah.
Andy Beatty says, I thought it was the best episode of that series, perhaps maybe because the Doctor wasn't in it that much.
Oh, dear.
Llama Bottle 0 says, one of the best. Even my nan likes it, but she hates Doctor Who. Which
Good
is
old nan.
fair comment. Jason the Dude, Twitter name is Jason_Ardron says, best episode of Tennant's Run. Some great storytelling and great introduction of the Weeping Angels.
Excellent. Cheers, Jason.
Let's do more audio. Let's do Jay Kent.
Yay.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Yep, that's me. That too. Yep, and this, so on and so forth. But Blink, what some would consider a modern classic, and certainly the best Weeping Angel story yet. Every scene feels needed, whether it's to develop character or add tension. I don't think it's a particular scary episode, but it's creepy as hell. I can actually believe the angels are made out of stone, which makes it even more unnerving when they move. I love the subtle fourth wall breaks done in this, which I feel are overlooked. When none of the characters on screen are looking at the angels, but the audience can still see them, they're still stone, so it feels like we're actually involved and immersed and affecting the world they live in. But despite all this, there's something that really bothers me. Who the hell only owns 17 DVDs? I know Amish people with no technology who own more than that. I mean, it would have been a 9 out of 10, but Sally only owning 17 DVDs knocks it down to a 2 out of 10. Unbelievable, unimmersive, no. And that's it, I'm afraid. That's all I've got from you on the transcript. But I can guess why. They're coming for you. The angels are coming. Don't turn your back. Don't look away. And don't blink. Bye.
Cheers, Jay. I hate to tell you, but the angel just got Gary. You blinked.
So good points there, Jay. And I'm very sorry again, like, because not many people mention like the fourth wall and stuff like that about this episode. So I had to mention it earlier because it was something that I thought about after a couple of watches previous. Very, very clever.
Very true. And there is something I've been meaning to say every time we play a J clip, a JK. Hang on, I'll start again. There is something I've been meaning to say every time we play a Jay Kent clip. And that is, go check out his YouTube channel.
Oh, it's great.
I always mean to say it because Jay, we love your clips, Jay. And your YouTube channel is brilliant. And I really liked your video on about Doctor Who. And its recent state, and yeah, just go and check out JK's YouTube channel because it's brilliant.
It's great.
And I've been meaning to say that for about a year.
Yeah, and if you want some just completely random bonkers entertainment, go and follow Jay on Snapchat as well.
Yes,
some very funny random stuff on there. So, thank you very much, Jay. Right, finishing up on Twitter, Adam the Whovian.
Oh yeah,
which I think he used to be called Adam the Ultimate Whovian.
He did. Has he dropped the ultimate?
He says, a very engaging standalone 45-minute episode with the strongest appearance from the Weeping Angels. Kerry is great, as is the Moth. And I assume you mean the writing there.
The Mothball.
The Mothball. Lastly on Twitter, Matt, Twitter name is Velvet Revolve 3R6. It's meant to say Velvet Revolver, I assume. Says, fantastic story. Nice use of time travel and experimental approach to the show, being one of the first Doctor Light episodes.
Yes.
Which is very true.
It's
right,
true.
A couple more audios we'll do in between Facebook. This is from Who Addicts Reviews, Matt Rowney.
Hey there, Gary and Adam. I hope you two are well. Now, Blink is a very, very interesting episode because a lot of people claim it's overrated. A lot of people think it's the greatest of all time, and I'm kind of in the middle. It is one of the best, but I do think it's a tiny bit overrated. First of all, I just want to say how unique, creative and clever it is, because nowadays in Doctor Who, a lot of plots get rehashed. It's very, very difficult to come up with new and original ideas just because the show is as old as it is. But Blink is a very unique, very clever and a very creative story. And I think it is one of, if not the best Stephen Moffat story that he has perhaps ever written. It's definitely up there. It's just so clever. And the fact that the Doctor and Martha were hardly in it, it was a Doctor-like story, and we know how they can sometimes go. Loving monsters, oh dear. But we know how Doctor-like stories can sometimes go. But with Blink, it just goes to show how good the side characters were, how good the villain was, when we were still so hooked into what was happening throughout the story. I thought Sally Sparrow, who was played by Kerry Mulligan, I believe, was outstanding, and all the other side characters were great too. And of course, the Weeping Angels are my favourite villain of all time. They are I don't even have to go into how great they are. They are so different, so clever, so scary, and along with them, they had some great direction. The direction was fantastic. And the music, I think they had their own unique soundtrack in this as well. The soundtrack, the screechy music, the tick-tocking clock. Oh, it was horrible. It's one of the very few Doctor episodes that has truly, truly scared me. So, add the characters, add the direction, add the music, add the Weeping Angels, add the timey-wimey aspect. It's literally Doctor Who at its very, very best. And it's timey-wimey at its best as well. It just goes to show how good Stephen Moffat can be on his day. So for me, Blink, not one of the best of all time, but I'd definitely say it's one of the best of the modern series, and I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Take care, guys, and I'll see you for the big 100.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers, Matt.
Some really good points there.
Definitely. Is it the first story to use the phrase timey-wimey?
I think so.
I had a feeling when when the Doctor said it, and when he meets young Billy, it's like, oh, it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. It felt like that might be the first time. I'm sure if it's not, someone will correct me. But I get the feeling it was.
I think it is. Yeah. Rightio, let's go over to Facebook. A few of you on there. Danny Brown says, "What can I say? One of the best Doctor Who episodes of all time, and also one of the scariest. I don't need to write much this week. It's that bloody good. 9.5 out of 10. Enjoy the show.
9.5, yeah, good stuff.
Lewis Palmer, this is a biggie. This story has gone down in history as being one of the best, one of the scariest stories ever. I think it is overrated, but not by much. I always enjoy giving it a watch, and it is genuinely frightening. Or at least it was. I tend not to get scared so much anymore because of the overuse of the angels since this story. But that's not really a criticism of the story itself. It is genuinely well written, and the DVD Easter egg thing is such a cool idea for an Easter egg nerd like myself. Overall, this holds up. It's a solid 8.5 out of 10, a genuinely great story.
Yeah, I know what he means about that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and before we finish up on Facebook, here's our last audio review. This is Joe Sweeney.
Hello again, Adam. Hope you guys are well. So, my thoughts on Blink. I remember on my first watch that I was thinking to myself that it wasn't very good because they hardly had the Doctor in there, because I remember how much I hated Love and Monsters episode. However, after a couple of watch, I eventually grew into liking this episode. The storyline was simple, it was easy enough to follow, and also the scripts were very good. The Weeping Angels are terrific, and also I think it's very clever how they appear to be harmless looking statues, and then they're scary at the same time, and how they sap their victims back in time and let them live until the actual present. Carey Mulligan acted brilliantly as Sally Sparrow, and she delivered the character splendidly. David Tennant was good as a Doctor, even though we only had a few cameo appearances from him. And Martha, wasn't too keen on Martha in this episode. She was moaning quite a bit.
Yeah.
However, I must add very quickly that I'm impressed there was hardly no CGI in this episode. I thought it worked very well in terms of storyline, because it took us back into the classic Who era. However, overall, good episode, so I'll give a score of 8 out of 10. Hope you enjoy podcast, guys. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Very good point about the CGI, actually. Wasn't much, was there, at all? I hadn't really thought about it before.
There was a little bit going on where they placed statues here and there.
Yeah.
On various places. And that was only like the scenes where they're sort of about town, and where we mentioned she's looking out the window and they're placed, things like that. But it's very few and far between. It's all practical. Just good old-fashioned, well-written stuff.
Yeah, I prefer that. Yeah, good stuff.
And lastly, on the official Facebook page, it was Sammy Satine, who never fails to give us her synopsis on things. So she says, Sally Sparrow decides to go snooping around the old abandoned house, finds a message on the wall under the wallpaper from the Doctor telling her to beware of the Weeping Angels and duck. Then she spots the angel in the back garden, and that isn't the statue it appears to be. She meets Billy Shipton, the policeman who gets sent back to 1969 and uncovers the truth about the 17 DVDs and who is responsible for the Easter eggs on them, as well as why the Doctor knows that she's going to say before she says it, and why, with the help of the Doctor, she saves the TARDIS from the clutches of the Weeping Angels. She goes on to say, I like Sally. Carey Mulligan is brilliant. I think Sally Sparrow might be the best female character Stephen Moffat has ever written in Doctor Who. I also like Billy. He seems like a nice guy, and it is sad when he dies. Kathy's brother is great too. This is timey-wimey done right. It is, of course, our introduction to the lonely assassins known as the Weeping Angels. They are sinister, creepy, scary, terrifying, and make me a bit scared of statues. You never know when one might just move. This is Moffat's writing at its best. If he returns in Series 10, I might just enjoy Series 10 more, though I'm not getting my hopes up. Oh, and it's a joy to always see David as the Doctor again. So overall, she gives it a 9 out of 10.
Cheers, Sammy.
Thank you very much. Did you have anything come through on the Geeks Handbag?
I did have a couple on the Geeks Handbag this week, yeah. Dean Jones, he says, a Doctor-like story was a risky gamble that didn't pay off with Love and Monsters, but thankfully Blink is excellent. Intriguing plot, compelling characters, brilliant villains in the Weeping Angels, and a cracking script by Stephen Moffat that proves he was and can be a terrific writer. Maybe not the best of all time, but certainly a modern Who classic. 9.5 out of 10. And Dean says, P.S. hope to bump into you both at London Film and Comic Con. Yes, we'll see you there, Dean.
Feelings mutual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Harry Westergaard says, without a doubt, the best Weeping Angel story. It's also probably the best example of a Dr. Light episode done right. Turn Left is also a great one. Yeah. Very tense, and the angels come across as a legitimate threat. The Doctor being an Easter egg on a DVD was also a very clever way to put him in the episode. So it's a great episode. It's not one of my all-time favourites, he says, but a good episode nonetheless. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
And finally, Paul Burns says, Carey Mulligan is without doubt the greatest companion who never was. Sari Spallow is an amazing character, and her journey through the episode proves Moffat is able to write genuine, realistic female characters without smothering them with convoluted backstories or confusing character arcs. The episode crackles along from start to finish as Moffat introduces arguably the only New Who monster who can stand with the Daleks and the Cybermen as poster villains for the show. The story is complex but oddly easy to follow, and I have little choice but to award it a 10 out of 10, says Paul. So,
Wow.
yeah, 10 out of 10.
Some really high scores there, as expected.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement. Well, most of us are in agreement that it's a very good, very, very good episode. Probably one of the best from Who since 2005.
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely up there since the show come back, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for sending in your audio clips and posting on Twitter and Facebook. Always really lovely to read through all your stuff. We really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Next week, for episode 100...
we need a big story, don't we, for that one?
We do need a big story. So
Big story.
Jamie!
Maybe a story that's 10 episodes long, Jamie!
Jamie!
So,
what are we reviewing next week, buddy?
Next week, it can only be the Second Doctor classic 10-parter, The War Games.
Yes, at last. We've put this one off for so long.
Yes.
The reason why we've put it off for so long is because it's 10 parts long, which is potentially, depending on how you view this story, is either a bit of a slog or it's just an absolutely brilliant way to spend 5 hours of your time.
Yes, this is why I started it early, because normally, we watch them a day or two before, but I was thinking, right, 10 parts. Yeah, better get some of those under my belt before the end of the week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to reviewing that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So those of you that have seen this one, which I'm hoping a lot of you have, then we'd be really interested to hear what you think to this one. It's often looked at as one of the, the greatest stories from the classic era of Who, but we'd like to see what you like to hear and see what you guys think of it. So as usual, look out for the Facebook post, or if you want to send us an email or a tweet, perfectly fine. Or if you want to send us an audio clip, always love those. Try and keep it to around about a minute long, and we will play them out on the show for you. And I think we're going to do there for episode 99, buddy.
Okay, Jamie!
Thank you for sticking with us for episode 99. It's been fantastic. No, that's the 9th Doctor, isn't it?
That's the 9th Doctor.
It's been fantastic talking through Blink. It's one that we've wanted to do for a while. We get a lot of requests, or we have got requests to do that over the years. The year.
It probably is years.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks again for sending in your stuff.
Yes.
Remember, so next week it's going to be a cracker. Very well, because it's 10 parts, there's lots to talk about.
Yeah.
There's lots to go, so it's going to be an interesting one next week. So, yes, send us in your thoughts and reviews for that one. In the meantime, check out the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. On the website, you can listen to all the other episodes that we've ever done. And you can also link off to Twitter and Facebook, give us a like and a post. And you can also go off from there to subscribe to the show. So if you want to subscribe and listen on iTunes, that's great. And if you are an iTunes listener, if you could give us a review and the rating, that would be fab. And we had some really lovely comments, actually, over the last couple of weeks on the iTunes reviews. So thank you so much for the kind words. It means a lot to Adam and I.
It does. I read through them because Gary said, "Have you seen the comments?" I said, "Oh, I haven't looked for a while actually." And so I went and had a look, and I was really, really quite touched. Thank you so much for your kind words, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And also check out Adam's stuff that he does on the Geeks Handbag channel, which is on YouTube and Facebook. Yeah. So head over there and give those all a good watch. Some great stuff there. I must admit, I have yet to watch your latest one, which is the Phantom event, which I'll be doing that later.
Yes, yeah, please do. I must admit, without blowing my own trumpet, I'm so pleased with the Phantom Doctor Who signing video. I had it all uploaded last Friday, ready to go, and then at the last second decided to scrap it and add some more bits and music, and because I felt I'd sort of rushed it, and I'm so glad I went back and redid it because I'm really, really pleased that turned out. So yeah, please go and check out the Doctor Who Phantom signing video.
It's all good.
Yeah, featuring Adam the Ultimate Whovian, one of our listeners.
Indeedy. Right, I think we're going to do there. Any Star Wars fans that are going to Celebration at the weekend, if you bump into each other, it'd be good to have a catch up. If not, Adam and I will be at London Film and Comic Con the following weekend. So we'll all have a good old meet up and catch up there. So until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,
Lottie.